Hey everybody, welcome to our next installment of JavaScript. Today what we're going to do is we're going to make a carousel, and what the carousel is going to do is going to go and is going to cycle between different images. In this particular version of it, we are not going to make it do this automatically, but we could do that in a different version of this. This is kind of the basic, I think, and it's super usable and something I think that we can definitely put in to our pages in the future. So let's go ahead and get into this. We're going to get into this in the same way that we usually do. We're going to take our skeleton and we're going to copy everything and put it into a new document. The document we create inside of our code editor is going to be called carousel.html. So I already created this document here. I am going to paste our skeleton in. So now we have our carousel.html file that is ready to go. And let's go ahead and make a couple of quick changes. The page title we're going to call carousel. Oops, apparently going to be another day where I can't spell. Perfect. We're not going to change really any of the other stuff on there. I think we're all set to go. So let's go ahead and start into the HTML. The HTML is going to be not overly complicated. However, it is going to be a lot of div tags and a lot of separation. There's just a number of different ways that we're going to have to do things to set up. So we're going to go ahead and put it inside of our container here. And the thing we're going to start with is a div, and we're going to call this div carousel. We're going to give it a class of carousel. And hopefully I'm going to spell it all right. And inside of our carousel, we are going to have two main sections of the carousel. Hopefully I'm going to stop saying the word carousel. It just sounds weird to say it this many times in a row. So the first part of our carousel is going to be the image portion. So IMAGE, carousel image. And then we're going to comment this thing up because this is definitely going to be div tag heavy. So this is the end of our carousel image. And then we'll put a quick comment on the bottom here to say that this is the end of the carousel. And then under our carousel image, we are going to have a second section of this section of a page. It's not really a whole page. And that section is going to contain the two buttons that we saw on the bottom. So we will name this very appropriately carousel buttons. So we've divided essentially this into half. And this is kind of how web design really works, is you create sections of a document, you put the sections into place, and then you add the CSS to it and things inside of it. That is exactly what we're going to do in this case. So the buttons actually are going to be very simple. What you're going to do, and I'm going to have this font awesome link tag linked in your assignment here. You're going to take that font awesome link tag that I have put in there for you, and you're going to put it right directly below our meta tag so we can use our icons like we've done before. So the icons that I've used actually are just the two arrows. So if in font awesome, you just search for left arrow, or I'm like that where I just don't even type the whole word, and I use the circle arrow. So remember, you click that and just click on the HTML tag, and you should be able to just pop that into your carousel buttons. And then for the other one, you can use the right arrow. So if you just go back and just do right, then you should get that circle one that, nope, did I type the wrong word first time? Uh-oh. Hold on, technical difficulty. All right, no, we're good. Arrow circle right is the correct thing. So if you go, you copy that thing and put that into our carousel page, then we should be all set. Let's just take a quick moment and do a quick preview to make sure everything's good so far. Yep, and we haven't really done that much stuff. All the things that we've done really are invisible with the divisions of the page. But right now you should have our left and our right arrow onto the page. That if you didn't do that one, the link tag didn't work out so hot, so we'll redo that, and you can just ask for some help if you need to. It'll be great. Okay, so let's continue with our next portion of this assignment, which is the HTML for the upper part of the carousel. And so the bottom is just really those two icons. It's just like a little button bar. There could be more stuff in there, but we're not going to do more. That's perfect for our purposes. So inside of the image portion here, the first thing, as would be expected, is an image tag. And we are going to do the src of hashtag for right now. And then we are going to have to give this a couple of different attributes. Actually, we'll just go ahead and do alt real quick before we do the rest. Alt will be hashtag as well. And then title is going to be blank as well. So title, to be real, is more about making sure that we're using the JavaScript properly than anything else. I don't necessarily love the title portion where when you put your cursor over something, it all pops up, but that's all right. It'll work out fine in this case. So now we need two different things that we're going to be using for the JavaScript part. We are going to need an ID. So I always like to put the classes and IDs up towards the front of the tag. So for ID, what we're going to do is we're just going to put the image. I was debating what to do, and when I can't figure out exactly what to do, I just go for it. And then we're going to use a data attribute, data-showing. Data-showing, S-H-O-W-I-N-G equals, and then we'll put a 0 in there. And that should be wonderful. That's all we need for our image. Now, this data attribute is going to store, essentially we're going to have a list of images, and this data-showing attribute is going to contain the number that is showing at the current time. So if image 1 is showing, it'll show a 0 because computer stuff starts at 0. All right, so we have an image here. We have our image tag. That's what we need. And then the other thing we're going to use is our overlay. And the overlay is going to work very similar to how it has before. Let's just go ahead and comment. The overlay, we should probably put the class of overlay on there too. And we should probably call this carousel. Oh, I did call that. My fault. Carousel-overlay. That's what happens when I don't look over at my stuff. Perfect. All right. So inside of our overlay, we're going to have two things. And these two things actually are going to be modifiable with JavaScript. That's how we're going to kind of get to these things. So we're going to just do an H3. Inside of this H3, we're going to just put title, just as a placeholder. And this H3 is going to have an ID. And it's going to be carousel, O-U-S-E-L dash title. And then we're going to have underneath that a paragraph of text. And we're going to give that an ID of carousel text. And we'll just put text inside of that just as a placeholder. And there we go. So let's just take a quick, and that's actually all the HTML for this. So let's go ahead and take a look and see where we're at. It's not going to look like a whole heck of a lot after we refresh, but you should see your image placeholder, title, and text. There we go. All right, so as with all things, the HTML portion is definitely not the hard part. The CSS and JavaScript in this case will be a lot more. So let's go ahead and go up and get into the CSS. And then after the CSS, we'll take a short break and we can do the JavaScript in the next video. So for the CSS here, we're going to do a lot of things that we have done before, and I'm going to try and put some of these things on for you so you don't have to wait to watch me. So what we're going to do with our carousel is, to start with, .carousel. We're going to set our carousel width just as a master width for whatever this is in. We're going to put this to be 80% of our available space. We're going to have a margin of auto, and then, oops, I should type the word auto, huh? And then for just right now, we're going to set a background color of light gray. And this is just really, since we're not going to actually have anything in our image source attribute and it's not going to pop up, this is just going to essentially show us where our carousel actually is. So then we're going to go ahead and position the carousel image portion of this. And the carousel image is the spot where we're going to have to start doing the position of relative, because that's where our overlay is going to go over. So I'm going to give you carousel image and then the image tag real quick here. These two things are things that we have done before. And we're going to position that relative because we're going to put the overlay over top of it. And this height attribute actually I think is one of the most important ones. The height attribute really determines how much of the image we're going to be able to see. So in this case, we're going to set the height to the 60 VH, so it should take up just a solid portion of our screen. And we're going to hide the overflow so it doesn't get super weird. And then our image, we're just going to do block and width of 100% as we normally would. So let's take a look and see where we're at. And at this point, you should see the spot where our carousel is going to take up in the gray. Notice that we have the buttons are in the gray right now. We're not going to worry about the buttons at all right now. So this is what we should be at. Let's go ahead and continue. For our overlay, we're going to do really the same stuff that we've done before for our overlay. I'm just going to put that one in. So for the overlay, we're going to give that position of absolute, and we want the width to be 100%. We're going to set the height in this case to be 10 VH because we want it, of the 60, we want it to just be the bottom portion. That's what I'm looking for. And we're going to set our background color of that like half transparent black. It'll be great. This will start at the bottom left, and then we're just going to do color, text align, all that stuff. Let's take a quick look and see where this should put you. And this is actually a pretty big change right here. So it takes, and it puts our title and our text in the spot where they need to be down here at the bottom. This is, like I said, big change. All right, so we only have two more things to do actually for CSS, and I will put these on for you because they are as well things that we did before. And what we're really going to be doing is we're going to be sizing our buttons here. And the icons are a little bit weird as they go for buttons because you have to kind of treat them as text, so it's just kind of weird. So our carousel buttons, this first portion is going to be resizing the button bar, like the area that the buttons are going to take up. So we're going to reserve 7 VH for the button bar at the bottom. And then this particular thing is just resizing our buttons to be the appropriate size. And then what I did for this is I did do this as a flex box, just because I think it's easier to it's easier to deal with the couple things we have as a flex box. So we just put everything in the center. It should be good, and then spread them apart with our gap attribute. So this is where we should end up for today. we have our buttons, we have our overlay, and we're going to have our image in the back. As we get into the JavaScript, we're actually going to make this thing do some things now and make it scroll so we can scroll between our different images.